Exactly a week ago, I went and ran my first ever half marathon, the Ipswich Half Marathon, where I went and ran a time of 1 hour, 17 minutes and 59 seconds, which I was delighted with. And now, as it's been a week, I've spent the week recovering, and now I am ready to rebuild the mileage. So I think it is the perfect time for me to make this video, because in today's video, I will be doing a race review of my first ever half marathon, looking at the training schedule, what I did before the half marathon, then looking at the race itself and how that went, and also the future for my running journey. So if you guys do enjoy the content you see on the channel, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. And with that being said, let's get into the video. Okay, so first of all, looking at the training block, as this was my first ever half marathon, this training, it'd be extremely important for me, because I was going from racing the longest distance, which I'd done 10k, all the way up to Dublin to the half marathon distance, 21k. So therefore, this training block, it was going to be extremely important for me. Now, I signed up for the Ipswich Half Marathon right at the start of this year, which gave me about 9 months to prepare. But having saying that, I didn't start training right away. I continued ending the cross-country season and also had quite a busy schedule of racing throughout May and the early summer. So I think the real half marathon training, it started at the start of the summer holiday, so the end of July, which gave me a solid 2 months of training for the half marathon. And I feel 2 months, it was perfect for me, because I already had the baseline fitness. I was doing around 60 kilometers per week before the half marathon. So from there, it was about building the mileage and getting ourselves ready for the half marathon. So therefore, the peak mileage which I brought us up to was about 90 kilometers per week, which I feel in the 2 months, it gave me the perfect amount of time to be able to build up to that mileage. And also, because it was 2 months, it meant I did not burn out, I didn't feel demotivated, and I remained motivated for those full 2 months, and I was fully locked in. So yeah, for me, 2 months, that is the perfect amount of time which I needed, but I feel it can vary on the person. If you're maybe more of a beginner runner, you could spend more time preparing, but of course, if you're already done a half marathon, you probably won't have to spend as long as the time period which I did train for the half marathon, because I feel now if I was to do another half marathon, I wouldn't have to spend as much time and energy which I had done training for my first half marathon. So the time goal which I went and set out was to go sub 1 hour and 25 minutes, and I went nearly 8 minutes faster than that, going 1 hour 17 minutes and 59 seconds. So therefore, I will now look at the training block and see what went well, because clearly things must have gone well, and also what could have gone better, because no one's perfect, and there's things which I definitely would have improved upon if I was to train for another half marathon. Okay, so starting off with the advantages of my training block, I feel one of the most important tips which I would give for you is learning the race route, because I can tell you now that learning the race route, I knew what the course would be like, and from that I could tailor my training based on the course. So for the Ipswich Half Marathon, there was a massive hill in the 11th to 12th kilometre, just over a third of the way through the course. And while this hill, I had not heard good stories from people before the half marathon, I can tell you now, it isn't a nice hill, having run off it myself now. So therefore, because I learnt the race route, I could tailor my training to do more hill training. And that brings me on to my second advantage, doing hill training, because during the half marathon training schedule, I did a lot of hill training. Like, that was the area which I focused a lot upon, going out to places like Christchurch Park and grinding out those hills. I knew that before this half marathon training block, I wasn't very good at going up hills, so therefore I spent a lot of time training up the hills. I developed my strength going up the hills, and I developed my confidence going up the hills, so I felt that it became less of a weakness and more of a strength, really. And this hill training, it definitely did correlate on race day, because coming up Preston Hill, I actually took 3rd place on the Strava segment, which tells you how well I did going up that Preston Hill, because I absolutely flew up that hill, and I'm still shocked just looking at the stats right now, how the pace didn't drop that much at all going up that hill. And I can tell you now, it definitely is a steep hill. By doing hill training, I developed my muscles to become more powerful, to become more explosive, and also to have the endurance to be able to get up that hill, which definitely was seen on race day going up Preston Hill. Okay, so a third advantage for me in the training block was going on recovery runs on trails, because I spent a lot of time, particularly in this training block, and I definitely will still after the half marathon, running on trails, because the difference between running on trails than running on concrete road surfaces, which you usually would do, is that the trails is a softer surface, which means there is less stress on the joints. It means that there is reduced amount of impact on the joints, and I think this is good for recovery, because it means your joints, it will recover quicker, and therefore it will reduce the chance of you effectively picking up an injury. So yeah, I would highly recommend you to try and do at least one trail run per week, switching up for the trails instead of going on the roads, because it means you can increase the mileage whilst reducing the chances of you picking up an injury. And when doing half marathon training, particularly going on the trails, it's important, because therefore you will be picking up the mileage and you will also be reducing the chances of an injury, because I can tell you now, getting an injury doing your half marathon training block, that is the last thing which you want. Now, a fourth thing which I would say for me is a positive is properly fueling, because I can tell you now, you do not want to be trying anything new on race day. And what I did during my half marathon training block is, on my long runs, I replicated what I would have for breakfast, and also scheduled out when I would have my energy gels. So what I would do before a long run is practice having what I'd have for breakfast, and what I had was a bagel with peanut butter and also honey. So this could allow me to see if it would work for me, and it most certainly did on a few long runs, so therefore that is what I would end up having on race day. And it allowed me to see A, if it did work for me, and B, if I could digest it, because I can tell you now, you don't want to be having something that you feel is too heavy for your stomach, and then half around the course you're throwing up everywhere. And the second aspect of properly fueling was practicing having energy gels for similar reasons. It allowed me to see if it worked for me, and also if it was too heavy on my stomach. So what I did is stimulate what I do on race day by having an energy gel before the long run, and also one halfway through the long run, because what I ended up doing on race day is having a Cis energy gel before the race, and also halfway through the race did provide you with a high five energy gel, so I took one of those as well. And by practicing properly fueling, I found out what worked for me, so I could be properly energized on race day and have the most amount of energy which I could, allow me to get the best possible time as possible. So a fifth and final pro of the training block for me is hitting my mileage goals. And this meant that every week I managed to hit the amount of mileage which I wanted to do. If this was 70 kilometers or 90 kilometers, I made sure that I stuck to the training plan and hit the mileage goal which I set out. And by doing this, I could build up my aerobic endurance and also build up my muscular endurance. And also, this enabled me to have the right amount of easy run mileage, and also have a right amount of threshold to hard mileage. For me, easy run mileage is extremely important, because it enables you to improve on your VO2 max, which means you're more oxygen efficient, and with more oxygen in your bloodstream, this oxygen will travel to your muscles, meaning there's more oxygen present there, and this will basically mean you hit your lactate threshold less quickly, and this will mean that you'll fatigue less quickly during the race, meaning you can stick to your pace for as long as possible. And this would be extremely important for me come race day, because it meant I could stick to my pace and not fatigue, meaning that I could hit the time which I got. Now, as I surprised myself with how fast I ran on the race day, this does mean in training block it went pretty well for me, and coming into the race I was on pretty good form. But having saying that, no one is perfect, and we did have a few things which maybe I would have changed in the future and done differently. So here is some of the cons of my training block. Okay, so the first thing which I would have done differently if I was to do my first half marathon again is more weight training, because I am an extremely light runner, and well, because of that, my running form naturally isn't the best, so it's important that I strengthen my muscles and make them stronger. Now, I did spend some time doing weight training during the training block, however, I didn't do as much as I wanted, because I feel my muscular endurance, it still isn't where I want it to be now, so I feel coming into the future, that is something that I can definitely improve upon. So therefore my running form, it can be improved, and I reduce the amount of energy which I waste. Now a second con for me is doing too much racing, which is a bit strange to say, but during the training block we probably did race a tiny bit too much, especially in the final few weeks, because in the final few weeks we had a 5 mile which I did PB in, I had an 800-meter time trial which I did PB in, a 5 kilometer time trial which I did PB in. Whilst I did PB in all these events, which is good to say, maybe it wasn't beneficial for the half marathon training, because especially the 800-meter didn't have much of an advantage getting that bit of speed in. Probably not. But I do like to do quite a lot of races, so I couldn't really help myself signing up. But having saying that, was it beneficial for my half marathon training? Most likely not. Okay, so the third and final con which I've listed down is running with my friends. And what I mean by this is that I didn't do enough runs with my friends, because I feel by making running social, it changes things up, which a little bit of variety, it keeps you motivated, and I feel I did too many sessions, too many easy runs out there by myself, grinding them all by myself. I feel I was quite motivated for the vast majority of the training block, but I feel like in the final few weeks, I was kind of missing the social element, running with my friends and being with other people. So I feel like in the future, I would definitely try and do more runs with my friends to try and keep me staying motivated to my end goal. I'm saying that, I feel I can be quite disciplined. I made sure I did get out there. But maybe next year, I know a few of my friends, they might also be doing my first half marathon. So this is definitely something I will be able to change. Fingers crossed. So with looking at the training block out of the way, let's now look at the race day itself and digest the race and see how it planned out. As already mentioned, my target goal was to go sub 1 hour and 25 minutes, and also with the massive hill at Freston, I knew that I couldn't go off too fast and release all of my energy, because then I could burn out and then pay for it in the latter stages of the race. So because of this, the tactic for the half marathon was to go out at rather a steady pace, trying to keep things as sensible as possible. And well, with the target pace in mind overall for 125 being 4 minutes per kilometer, I went off at 3:40 in the first 5 kilometers, and as you can see from the splits, I was actually slightly ahead, going a bit too faster than what I had planned out. But having saying that, I felt really steady, I felt really comfortable. At this point, I was in a really good pack of runners, and I felt I was in a really good position. So having saying that, even though I was going slightly faster than planned, I did feel I kept myself going at a sensible pace, and I was keeping energy saved for the latter stages of the race. And then about 5 kilometers in, we went through Holywells Park, and that is when a little mini hill comes up. It's nothing compared to the Freston Hill, but it can still catch you out if you're not prepared for it. And going up this hill, I felt really strong. And then this pack, it started to thin out a bit, and I was near the front in a really good position, which I was really happy with. And then at this point of the race, we started to go along the waterfront. And well, the crowds along the waterfront, it was absolutely incredible. And I feel the adrenaline from this, it took my average pace into the 3:30 per kilometer, which is something I could never expect, because we were around my 10-kilometer PB pace. And well, to be at that at this stage of the race, I was feeling really good, and I was moving up the pack, which is positive to say, and I was feeling really strong. And then this continued after the waterfront, going out of Ipswich into the countryside under the Orwell Bridge. And at this stage, I was moving up the pack. I was moving quite a few places up. I was starting around 34th at the start, that's what I got told. And at this stage, I moved up into about 15th. And the pace, it was absolutely incredible. This was really fast for me, and it's something that I couldn't expect. I was feeling really strong, and then we hit about the halfway point of the run. And then we came along to what I knew was coming, the Freston Hill. And then, surprisingly, I absolutely flew up the hill. The average pace going up that hill, 3:45, which meant I didn't drop the pace by less than 10 seconds per kilometer, which for the hill, the steepness of it, is something really good for me to be able to say. I also overtook quite a few people going up that hill, and I came third on the Strava segment, and I came 12th overall in the race, and this race has been held quite a few years now. I know everybody doesn't upload their runs on Strava, but to sit third place on the Strava segment going up Preston Hill, that for me just shows you how fast I went up that hill. At this stage of the race, I was still feeling really good, and then we had the High Five energy gel at the stop, and then this is when we did a little bit of a turnaround loop. It wasn't like a direct U-turn. We did a loop round Preston and then going back down the hill again. And my splits were still in the 3:30 per kilometre split. And then we went back down the hill about 12, 13, 14, 15 kilometres in, going back towards Ipswich. And well, as we were going down the hill, we were running by runners who were now going up the hill. And well, I was getting a lot of motivation, a lot of support. And I think this pushed me on quite a bit, because at this point I was kind of by myself. I was doing things solo. There was no one around me, so to have people still motivating me on, that kept me going right until the very end. And well, coming back into town in the final few kilometers, the pace did go back into the 3:40s, but at this point I had done an absolutely remarkable effort for myself, and I got myself across that finish line in 12th position. And well, I was stunned by that. 1 hour, 17 minutes and 59 seconds. I just couldn't expect that. And it honestly could be one of the best runs of my life. And also, just to show you how I got a 10k PB during the half marathon. So, I think that does show you how good of a run that was for me. But yeah, for my first ever half marathon, I couldn't have asked for anything more. That was the absolute perfect race for me. I paced it perfectly, and well, things turned out to go really well for me. Before we move on to looking at the future, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who has supported me, because on the day there's so many people out there. The crowds were incredible, the runners too, the event that was organised, it was really well organised, and also there was a lot of help from my club Ipswich Stratford in volunteering, marshalling and pacing. So I just want to say a big thank you to Ipswich Stratford for all their involvement in the Ipswich Half Marathon. And while the community, it's also been really nice for me. I've had a lot of positive messages online, and while the feedback has been truly incredible. So I just want to say thank you everybody who has been involved in the half marathon. Now it's time to look forward to the future, and I'm definitely looking forward to the future because we have a lot to look forward to. So over the past week we have been recovering, because naturally after doing the half marathon, the quads, they were absolutely aching. So this week I've spent recovering, but now it's time to lock back in for the future. And well, in the short term, we will now be heading into the cross country season. As this is my final year in school, I'll be doing RHS at Suffolk Schools, and that will be quite an important race for me as it is my last year. So therefore I will try my best to do the best I've ever done. The furthest I got was to round 2. So this year, the goal is to try and get to round 3, also known as Anglians. And I feel hopefully I can use a bit of momentum from the Ipswich Half Marathon to try and boost my training and get me to places where I've never been before. Also, in terms of cross country, I also have the Nest League, which is built up of clubs in North Essex and South Suffolk. And well, for the first ever time, I will be participating in the senior races. So that's about 5 miles long. So yeah, this is going to be quite a revolutionary cross-country season for me. Quite an important one, but I'm looking forward to it. And now it's time to lock in for the cross-country season. In terms of half marathons, will I be out there again? Well, most certainly, but not in the near future. I was looking to do the Peterborough Half Marathon. I've suggested it. It is a very fast course, so I could try and go for a good time there. But however, having saying that, I feel it's too soon of a turnover from the first half marathon, because you've got to spend time recovering in between. So therefore, I've decided for the near future to focus more on the cross-country season. And then maybe in a few months' time, in the new year, is when I'll look to do another half marathon again. I've been looking online, and there's definitely some good options. I've been suggested Great Bentley Half Marathon, which is quite a fast and flat course, but I've also been looking at doing the Colchester Half Marathon. The Colchester Half Marathon is very similar to the Ipswich Half Marathon in a way. They both start at the football stadiums. It goes through the town, goes past some stunning landmarks, and then goes into the countryside and goes up quite big hills. So the Colchester Half Marathon, it won't be a fast course, but I feel it's something which I would really enjoy doing. I haven't decided upon my next half marathon, but I'll definitely keep you guys tuned on the half marathon which I next choose to do. For this channel, I also have quite a lot planned in the future. I hope to also make some more fun style content instead of just race day vlogs, and also I have a very big announcement coming in the next few weeks. So if you don't want to miss that, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel with the notification bell on, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.